Oh, hi, everyone. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Game Show, brought to you by Front Yard Fantasy here on the Better Sports Network. I am your host, Joey Wright, joined always by my two talented co-hosts, JL Garofalo. They're not here today. Simon and JL are not here today. I hope they're doing well wherever they are. They left me the keys to the car. Big mistake, but I couldn't do the show alone today. So I went out and found two of my closest friends, two guys that I absolutely love in this industry that are no strangers to you guys. First, Steven Johnson, who's recently been hard at work with the SFB Abbey Makers and Fishbowl merch. Steven, how are you doing today?
Oh, just wonderful. I get a break from designing for a bit, get to do some drafting. It's not a bad day. And it's Connor Bedard Day in Chicago. I'm very, very excited.
Super exciting. So speaking of Chicago, our next guest is no stranger to FYF either. He's an analyst over at Football Guys and was recently featured in his wife's television debut on Football Night in Chicago on NBC Sports Chicago. Dave Kluge, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing great, man. Always a blast coming on these FYF shows. And if JL and Simon left you the keys to the car, let's smash it into a wall.
Let's I know for real.
Wait, let's not do that. No.
No,
have a
Ferris
great time.
Bueller, yeah, Ferris Bueller, the full convertible run of things. Let's go.
Well, thanks for being here with me today, guys. But we're not the only ones here. We also got the chat. So let's say hi to them. We got Craig in the chat. Craig saying happy
Craig.
First appearance on an FYF show. Anniversary, Joey. Thank you, Craig. I appreciate it. Craig, our FYF historian. Victor, hola, brochachos. I also want to say happy anniversary, Joey, on the FYF show. Joey, you rock. Smash that like button if you all agree. I better see some likes. And we definitely want to see that. We have Davek Luge here in the chat. Oh my God, Dave Kluge is on today. He is my favorite. He is my favorite too. And then said, oh crap, I forgot to log out of my burner. So Dame, how you doing today, Dame? Hello. We got Albert in the chat.
Other people think that I'm as funny as I think I am.
It's pure dad humor.
We got Albert in the chat saying hello to everybody. Somebody from the company count saying who lit Joey on. I imagine that's Jay on his vacation. Thanks for being here, Jay, on my first hosting show. And see you're a supportive team member. Dustin, Team Joey, holding down the hosting duties. Thank you, Dustin. Calvin, how's it going? Strong style. Love seeing you in here. Smash that like button. Please smash that like button. So yeah, before we get into the mock draft, we're doing a one quarterback Dynasty mock draft today. Before we get into that, a couple reminders. If you've not followed our guest, Steven at underscore, what is it? What's your at, Steven?
At Steven with a PH underscore Roto.
And Dave's got a more even confusing one. It's at Dave Kluge. So enjoy spelling Kluge to figure that out. If you're watching our YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to make sure you never miss us live at 3 p.m. every weekday. And with that being said, you guys, you want to get into the mock draft?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. There's a loud sound outside my door. All right. So, Steven, you're going to be leading us off today in our mock draft. So we're doing one quarterback. This is a startup dynasty. So 101, Steven.
All right. Easiest pick of the book here, Justin Jefferson. Obviously, the 101. Can't go wrong with the pick. Young, talented, a lot of output.
Is there anyone that you kind of go back and forth at with that 101, or is it's Justin Jefferson all the way through?
It's a hit the add button immediately on Justin Jefferson. There really isn't a guy that I think twice about in that 101, especially in a one quarterback dynasty setup. And he's 24 years old. He's shown no signs whatsoever of letting up, and he should see a lot more one-on-one coverage this year as long as Jordan Addison can get up to snuff and get the ball rolling up in Minnesota, even though I know he's tortured the Bears here for the last couple of years. So, it's a lot of positives for Justin Jefferson to be a cornerstone there for your team.
Absolutely. So Bijan went 103. We got Jamar Chase going 102. Dave, are you up Justin Jefferson 101 if you have the choice?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that there's anybody going a different. I mean, you could make a case for Jamar Chase, I should say, if you really want to. But yeah, Justin Jefferson is the pretty unanimous pick right there. This is going to break in my brain. I feel like I haven't done a one quarterback startup in a long time. I'm so used to Superflex right now that I'm really struggling where to go with 106. There's a lot of directions I can take.
Oh gosh. All right, so we got Mr. Scampers in here popping in. Oh, come on, dude. Andrew Hall. Good afternoon, FYF.
Where's Andrew?
Stephen and Dave, you got a peace sign and some love. That's to see. Uh-oh, Scampers. Are you not at home? Mrs. Scampers in the chat. Stephen and Dave, greater than Mr. Scampers and Joey. So Scampers apparently done wrong again by Mrs. Scampers. That's not good. Andrew, thanks for popping in to see us today. Dave, you want AJ Brown? The one. So yeah, you took him before Hill and Lamb. You're more hyped about AJ Brown over those.
Lamb already went off the board. Lamb went at 104.
He
That's
did.
who I was hoping would slide to me at 106, but I should have known in a draft room with sharks like Craig Reith here that there was no chance that was going to happen. So unfortunately, I didn't get Lamb. But AJ Brown, what? I don't know his age off the top of my head. I can check real quickly. What is he still? 25?
25.
Yeah, 25 years old. We saw, that he had that profile for years as a guy who was set to explode. You look at the routes run data, the target share, all that fun stuff, but he was really hampered by that Tennessee offense. And then all of a sudden shows up in Philadelphia, gets all the targets, high flying offense, scoring opportunities, and puts up an elite season. So I think we continue to see that for years to come as he's tied to Jalen Hurts.
Okay. And I'm on the board here, and everybody's going to get to see my queue today, which is just a little peek behind the scenes, behind the curtain for you.
Joey, your
I'm
queue
going
is
to
showing.
go. It is, well, I need to pull up my zipper, apparently. I'm going to go Monter St. Brown here, a wide receiver that I'm just loving more and more by the day. Happy to take him at the turn. And I got to think what I want to do for the next pick. Yeah, we'll take Austin Eckler. We'll keep it easy. Awesome. So we had what? 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs in the first round, which would leave 8 wide receivers. That's math. Everyone, no tight ends yet, though. That's interesting. So Alex, I see here in the chat asking if it's tight end premium. This is not tight end premium. And I do see that Craig says it does say redraft and sleeper, Joey. I do realize that as well. The thumbnail said Dynasty. So, yeah, it's the only mistake I made today, and I will make no more.
We're going to hold you to that. I hope you realize that.
Oh, God. I actually wore pants today. That was my first mistake because, you're not supposed to wear pants on shows, on the FYF shows. Jefferson will be wide receiver 1 by the end of the season. Bold take there. Strong style.
Very bold.
Very bold.
If anyone wants to peek behind the curtain, when I did my show on NBC a couple days ago, no pants on. No pants, no socks, no shoes. Just
hey, you had a great blazer.
And a button.
Blazer. I was like, who's this guy?
I just wanted to get away with it. Like that's like always been a dream of mine is to be on TV with no pants on, and I got to accomplish that. So check that off the bucket list.
I was on TV with my pants on one time, and then I got in the back of the cop car, and my parents were selling it.
Oh man. Oh, this is
Swamp's
tough for
upset because you sniped him on AJ Brown. So good job there. We have Greg Pryor II in the chat. Says, Joey, I'm going to see Asteroid City tonight. What round did you draft this versus all the other Wes Anderson movies? Greg, I'm glad you asked me that question. I actually did my Wes Anderson rankings while I was sitting on the toilet the other day. And I've got Asteroid City like right around Grand Budapest. So not a first round Wes Anderson movie for me, but definitely like at the 1-2 turn. I enjoyed it quite a bit. That's nice.
Where does that rank among your...
What was that?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, where does that rank among all your Wes Anderson movies?
I think I have it at 6th. So, pretty high. I love Sisu. That's my number 1. And Steven, thank you for backing me up on that because I got a lot of people like, how can you put that one? It's just the most personal one to me.
Yeah.
If I'm talking more movies on the show, JL's going to fire me. And they only pay me 5 peanuts a show. So we got, Jalen Hurts was the first quarterback to go off the board to pair with Garrett Wilson there at almost at the 1-2 turn. Is that too early for Jalen Hurts and a dynasty league guys and a 1 quarterback?
That's I really wasn't sure, and I wanted to play the board there to see when quarterbacks started going because 1 QB, it's tough. Obviously, there are 12 teams. You only have to start 1 quarterback. That suppresses the value a little bit, but we're also looking at dynasty here, and you're getting long-term security with these high-end guys. So that was kind of my plan sitting in the middle of the second pick. What I assumed is that Patrick Mahomes would be the first quarterback off the board. If Patrick Mahomes went off the board, then I was going to take Josh Allen there at 207. But with Hurts going off the board, I went Mahomes. We'll see if I pulled the trigger early or not, though, and see when some other quarterbacks start going. But getting able to lock in Patrick Mahomes, I did a single QB startup about 3 years ago, and I took Patrick Mahomes at the 101 of a single QB startup. And my team has been dominating since. You just can't really put a value on the positional advantage that you get having a guy like Mahomes there.
Yeah, definitely in startup dynasty. So Steven,
Yeah.
it's going Travis Etienne.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those areas where, I mean, to Dave, your point with the quarterbacks, I mean, you can go one of many ways. I'm actually going to follow you guys in that set and go Josh Allen here. I mean, there's that value at the top of the board, and yeah, there's some landmines. You start reaching past those top 5, 6, 7 names, but I mean, especially being on the turn, all it takes is one quick run, and then you find yourself playing with fire and a couple names that you might not necessarily want. Even if it is a QB1, dynasty league, you still want, one of those top producers at the quarterback position. So, it's right around that time where you kind of say, okay, time to, put up or shut up at the position.
Okay.
Pitts was a good pick there.
Okay. At the, was that 304? Good job, Craig.
304.
Craig,
Yeah, that's a heck of a pick. I was hoping he might slide to me, but again, in a room with a shark like Craig, not going to happen.
Not today. Steven, I'm going to throw this question to you. Should I trade my 12 pick for the pick 7 dynasty QB1 in round 1?
12 pick for the pick 7 dynasty.
So I think what they're saying is they had the 12 pick and they want to move up to make
Well,
sure
I mean,
they
I
get
guess
a
it's
QB1.
what you're trading it with in that regard. I like the turn in those situations. I mean, if they have the 12th, they pick up, that back to back. I really don't think in a QB1 that there's too much difference between pick 7 and pick 12 in value in the long run. I mean, I'd stay put, especially if it's going to cost you, a third, fourth round pick in addition, just to move up 5 slots. I wouldn't make that move.
Yeah. I'm about to be on the clock, so I'm putting a question up here, very calculated, because Steven can chime in on this. Any wrestling fans excited about Money in the Bank this weekend? It's funny because today is my 2-year fantasy football streaming anniversary. However, the very first stream I was ever on was with Steven on a wrestling show. Steven, are you excited for Money in the Bank this weekend while I make my picks?
If you asked me that question 3 weeks ago, I would have said yes. Ever since then, I am firmly in the no territory because I have a horrific feeling that the worst possible outcomes are going to occur, and I'm just going to be very upset once it is all said and done in London. AKA, LA Knight should win the Money in the Bank briefcase. End of story. That's all I will say.
And a strong style thrown in there that Becky Lynch and LA Knight are his picks to win Money in the Bank. So I guess we'll see there. I love the LA Knight pick. Yeah.
Yep.
I was a little more infatuated with a different wrestling show that Steve and I were actually texting about the other night. The Forbidden Door show that was in Toronto instead of Chicago for the first time. And the Kenny Omega Will Ospreay match, one of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen. And that's all the time I have to talk about wrestling before I get cut off. Craig also saying he hopes LA Knight wins. Dustin, Joey for sure is taking Anthony Richardson in this round. I did not. I'm the notorious wait on quarterback guy, and I was looking at Herbert. I was like, am I gonna do it? I couldn't do it.
Well, and this is around time, and really the third round, and Dave, you were part of this too with Mark Andrews in the third. Is like there's that tight end cliff too. Without naming specific people who are still on the board here, but it's really one of those positions too that at least I've seen have kind of fluctuated up and down in terms of when it really hits, and the order too. There's really been no rhyme or reason to the order on some of these guys, whether it's Kelsey, Pitts, Andrews. There's still those Pitts truthers out there that will say he's my tight end 1. I don't care. I'll wait to get that type of production. Like, I mean, does the third round feel late for the tight end run? Because it kind of feels late to me.
Yeah, especially. I mean, I'd expect like a third round run on tight ends in a super flex draft, but with the quarterbacks getting pushed down in a single QB, it's kind of crazy to see this. Now what's really jumping out to me is I'm thrilled to get who I'm going to take right here, Quentin Johnston. But I'm kind of surprised to see Jackson Smith-Njigba going so far ahead of the other first round rookies. I mean, he can really split hairs between the landing spots here and which one is the best landing spot. But at the end of the day, these 4 rookie wide receivers went back to back to back to back in the NFL draft. And, I think a lot of people are still holding on to their prior assessment of JSN, being that possible top 5, top 10 pick. And I'm kind of surprised to see such a big gap between him and the rest of the rookie wide receivers in this draft. I mean, as soon as JSN went off the board, I was hoping for Quentin Johnson, Jordan Addison, or Zay Flowers to make it back to me. And then I had my pick of the litter by the time my pick came around. So kind of shocked to see that.
Dave, now I'm looking at your team. You got AJ Brown, not Antonio Brown, Quentin Johnston, Patrick Mahomes, and Mark Andrews. Now, that's a team definitely built for the future, but you could also win now with that kind of build starting off. Is Quentin Johnston your favorite wide receiver if you were trying to win now, or is there another one you like more?
No, so my redraft wide receiver one is actually Jordan Addison. Just looking at the opportunity, the Minnesota Vikings have a sieve on defense. They can't stop anything. They play indoors. Justin Jefferson's going to be pulling double coverage over his way. And then you look at Adam Thielen, who is now gone and out of Minnesota. He led the league in routes run last year. Or I'm sorry, he didn't lead the league. He was second in the league in routes run behind only Justin Jefferson. So KJ Osborne is a name that's getting a lot of hype right now, and people are reasonably excited about him. But Jordan Addison, first round rookie, could realistically step into that Adam Thielen role and run 600 something routes this season. So I think if you're looking at a win now standpoint or redraft standpoint, Addison's actually the rookie wide receiver that I prefer.
Awesome. So see Steven, Chicago Zone, Steven.
I went home
Chicago Zone, DJ Moore.
Yeah. and I mean, even Jefferson and Addison, like both of them, but I mean, I'm extremely high on Addison as well. I even took him over Jackson Smith and Jigba in a couple rookie leagues earlier this year. I think he's just got that profile, and especially the time at USC, I think a lot of people forget just how dominant he was before this past year, and the fact that if he can get back to that, and the fact he's not really going to be the sole focus in that Vikings offense, I think that's going to be a good transition for him. Getting into his rookie season, I think he could easily finish with the most receiving yards in the league of all rookies this year.
And how about DJ Moore? You're expecting a big step forward from him. I mean, I think people forget how young he still is, that he's still only 25, or did he just turn 26 years old?
Yeah, 26.
Yeah, but I mean, still super young, and he's still on that big contract. He's going to be tied to Justin Fields for the next few years. Trying not to put my Homer hat on too much here, though. I can
already
just
there.
see. I mean, it just, last year I was like the biggest pessimist when it came to the Bears' outlook. I was projecting them for 3 to 5 wins. And this year, it is so hard not to sip the Kool-Aid, man, with them beefing up that offensive line, really like going from inarguably the worst wide receiver room in the NFL to suddenly a very capable pass catching room, beefing up the backfield with the addition of Roschon Johnson. They're doing everything they can to set Fields up for success. And then you look at the other wide receiver ones that have been traded in their prime, looking at Stephon Diggs, AJ Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, all of these guys. Every team upped their pass rate significantly after making the trade for that wide receiver one. So I know everybody just looks at DJ Moore and looks at the Bears passing output last year and says there's no way that he's going to do anything here. Well, I think the Bears have tipped their hat with all the moves that they've made this offseason that they are going to want to pass more.
Yep, exactly. 100% agree. I mean, the thing about the Bears, and even if you hear all the reports out of the mini camp, is the fact that this offense is going to run through DJ Moore through the air. Plain and simple. Mm-hmm. If he is healthy, you can expect him to get the very large majority of the targets. And, again, for a guy that, the Bears have not had as a weapon, I mean, you could even argue even before Allen Robinson. I mean, it's been a long time since there's been a wide receiver of more stature in Chicago. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what Fields can do with him. And the fact that, as long as the Bears forget about the pass rush, I know they're going to add some folks. They're going to be playing from behind, plain and simple, regardless of what they did to upgrade the linebacker core, regardless of how good their secondary is. They need to get after the quarterback, or else it's going to be a shootout. And there's going to be a lot of passing coming through that offense with what Luke Getsy's putting together. So I'm very excited about what Moore's going to do in Chicago this year.
And even before the acquisition of Moore this offseason, last year they went out and traded for Chase Claypool. So, say what you want about Claypool. Personally, I'm in the camp that it's probably not going to work out and that we gave up too much for him, obviously. But they keep showing time and time again that they want to do what they can to put Justin Fields in a position to succeed. And Ryan Poles said that in his press conference, one of his first press conferences with the Bears. They said, "What are your plans to develop Justin Fields?" And he said, "I want to follow the same blueprint that other teams have laid out for young quarterbacks to help them develop and get them a true wide receiver one that they can develop chemistry in." Didn't work out with Chase Claypool, but I'm excited. And, it's inspiring to see that they went back to the well and tried doing it again with DJ Moore.
Right, exactly. And again, I mean, I know that it was a midseason thing, and I still want to keep giving myself the benefit of the doubt that, he didn't get the full camp, he didn't get everything, he was just kind of forced into the situation. But it's the thing that you hear about these news cycles as well, where it's kind of died down on the good news, but keep an eye on the news when you're hearing negative reports
Mhm.
during the off season. And we've heard nothing but negative about Claypool so far, and just how he's been adapting and soft tissue injuries. It's concerning. It's definitely concerning, but you got to try and stay as optimistic as you can if you're a Bears fan.
The best report we've gotten about Claypool so far was Justin Fields saying it seems like he's more engaged and he's working harder this year. And a lot of, meatballs tried spinning that into a positive. But what I hear is that he wasn't engaged last year and that he wasn't putting in the work. I mean, that's how I read the tea leaves when I see that storyline.
Yep, 100%, 100%.
There's a steal for Jeff
Okay.
Bell, man. Getting
I was
Justin
about to
Fields
bring it up.
6'11". I think we all jumped the gun a little bit early on quarterbacks with those first few picks because Jeff just sat there and let Justin Fields fall into his lap.
I was
I
just about to bring
concur.
up how I love grabbing a player when they're kind of like the last player in my tier, but
Yep.
maybe not ranked as the last player in the tier. And Justin Fields kind of fits that narrative for me, where I love that
Anthony
value
Richardson over Justin Fields is, I don't want to, poke holes in anybody else's draft. I'll see how it looks at the end, but
yeah.
kind of wild to see Justin Fields going a full round after Anthony Richardson, after we've already seen Justin Fields be one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah. I do have some optimism for Richardson. I would have taken Fields before. I get it though, because if Richardson hits, you don't want to miss on that.
I almost took Fields over Brown. I thought about double tapping quarterbacks just to push the demand up for them a little bit higher.
Craig taking Trevor Lawrence as
Or
well. I love that pick.
that's a great pick. That's a
Yeah.
great pick. I like that one.
So yeah, it's funny too because before Fields went, I was about to focus on Andrew Hall taking Lamar Jackson. I was like, oh, after Herbert, after Burrow, and then that Fields is like even better. So, Dave, you're going a strategy here. There's your team's void of something. I'm interested to see how your team turns out. I don't want to say what it is, but
Dare you say 0?
well, can I ask you about that? Do you like a lot of the late round running backs that are going, the mid to late round running backs?
Not especially. I just
Okay.
it seems like wide receiver value is really falling here, but no, I don't like anybody on the board with this pick. This one might be a little bit of a reach, but I'm going to do it anyway. He's got the draft capital and he's got a coach that likes to run the ball. I know people are like completely off on Zach Charbonnet in redraft this year. He's going like 7 rounds after Ken Walker, but Pete Carroll, he wants to run the heck out of a ball, and a second round investment in a running back is a pretty lofty investment. So he seems like one of those guys that's, didn't get drafted in the first round of the Bengals like everybody wanted him to. So because he slid a little bit and because he didn't get a premier landing spot, people have just written Zach Charbonnet off for dead. And I think he still has a chance to, pay off.
And it's funny. I mean, even a year ago, we're talking about everybody kind of writing off the wide receivers in Seattle after it was announced that Geno Smith was going to be the guy passing the ball. And then all of a sudden, here we are. Flip side, it's like a year later, everyone forgets that this is still a run first offense, first and foremost. And yes, Ken Walker, great talent, but I don't know if he's got the capability to be a bell cow. I mean, even a 60-40 split is, I think, a very doable thing, if not 55-45, just based, like you said, second round value is something that cannot go unnoticed, plain and simple.
I'm gonna make my second pick here. Now, I have not addressed the quarterback position yet. Is it out of spite? Is it just, me being saucy? No, I love waiting on quarterback, and I look at the quarterbacks that are left, and there's like 3 or 4 that I still like a lot. And I'm pretty confident I'm going to get at least one of them. So
we know you're taking Baker Mayfield later. It's okay. You don't have to hide it.
I'll take Isaiah Pacheco. I do have some confidence in him. Work and grind, taking Deshaun Watson. But see, now I kind of like that pick. Work and grind. He started off with 2 stud running backs. Has 3 great wide receivers. I know Dave, you love Jahan Dotson. And then if Anthony Richardson does kind of struggle out the gate, he's got Deshaun Watson. So there is a little bit of safety there. So I kind of like that.
Let's see. How many teams are there without a quarterback? Yeah, just 3 now. Okay.
Yeah.
I find myself taking Marquise Brown in every startup mock whatever that I do this year. I can't, and I got him here at 607. I can't understand the depressed value that we're looking at Marquise Brown this year. Like for years, we said this guy is a trade away from exploding in value. Then he gets traded. He's a top 5 wide receiver. He gets injured, and then everyone just goes back to fading Marquise Brown again.
Yeah.
100% agree. 100% agree. I mean, he showed everything that he was capable of doing. It's just it's the what have you done for me lately type setup. And, people might be worried about Kyler Murray not being ready to start the year. I mean, that's still not something that should shy you away from, taking somebody like this. Again, talking dynasty here, long term, if the Cardinals do end up with 2 of the top, say 4 picks, and they end up making a big splash, they move on from Murray, they go get a big arm. I mean, here we are raising it up on Brown again, a year from now, if that does occur, or if Murray's able to bounce back from this ACL. I mean, it's a value there, in all honesty. I mean, a year ago, he was floating around round 4, round 5, and now he's even lower. It makes no sense.
Looking at the board here, James Cook just went off just got drafted, and he's, for me, one of the most kind of interesting players this offseason. I'm not really sure if I like him or I don't like him. In PPR, I'm pretty okay with him. Dave, what do you think about James Cook? How are you feeling about him this season?
I'm not the biggest fan personally, and I know it's been a hot topic. A lot of people are trying to, determine who the guy is going to be in Buffalo. And I mean, the one exciting thing about James Cook is that he did what we expected him to do when he got drafted. He led the league in breakaway run rates last year, 15 yards or more. So he could break off big plays here and there, but I don't think that he's got the frame or the build to ever be a 3-down back in the NFL. So what you're looking at is perennially, he's just gonna kind of be in that change of pace role. He's gonna have some weeks where he can break off a big run, score a touchdown, and pay off for you. And then he's got other games where he's gonna have 4 or 5 touches under 10 yards and, kind of hurt you in fantasy. So for me this year, Joey, I know we talked about this on the Launchpad a few weeks ago. I prefer Damian Harris. Damian Harris just fits the mold of the quarterback or the running backs that have found success in Buffalo throughout the years. He's bigger, faster, stronger, pretty much does everything better than Devin Singletary does. And Devin Singletary gave us multiple consecutive seasons as an RB2, a top 24 running back. So I think now them upgrading that Devin Singletary role to Damian Harris, I think he's going to be the guy that's going to see all of the goal line work. He's going to see more volume overall. And I think with James Cook, you're just hoping that he can bust off a big run to pay off every week.
Yeah, on that episode of the Launchpad that we were on together, Jeff Bell was on there with us. And I really wanted to ask you that question because Jeff disagreed with us. And he doesn't have a voice right now. So I know it's just driving him crazy right now. He can't put in what he has to say about James Cook. But go back and watch that episode of the Launchpad. Jeff does make some really good points about James Cook. And like I said, I am actually pretty much okay with him in PPR. I love you, Jeff. Sorry. So Steven, let's see. How's your team looking? How are you feeling about it?
It's all right. I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't like it. At this point, I let my Addison truther self get the best of me in round 4, I think. But Brandon Cooks, I really like. I know that's a little bit early based on his ADP, but there's something about him in Dallas that I really am looking forward to. I know he's a little bit older, but again, I think having the opportunity to play across from CeeDee Lamb in that offense is going to pay dividends for him. So I really like that as a value in a flex type situation, that wide receiver 3-4. And then David Montgomery, I think, has a chance to really step in and pile up the touchdowns in Detroit if they are serious about putting Gibbs in more of that receiver type role, similar to what DeAndre Swift had last year in Detroit. So again, call it somewhat homerism as a former Bear, but I do think the opportunity is there for him to put up some decent points.
Sounds good. I'm gonna go check in with the chat a little bit. I didn't forget you guys were there. I was just really focused on this draft. We got Seth in here. Seth, how you doing, buddy? Great crew today. Hope everyone's having a great Wednesday. I know I'm having a great Wednesday. Dustin chiming back in on the wrestling talk, saying that it should be LA Knight, but it will be Priest. Priest is somebody that I was really surprised that turned into what he did. Once again, Joey, this is not a wrestling show. It's a fantasy football show. So yeah. There's a lot of wrestling comments in here. I had to scroll by them. So let's see. Oh, Tua went to Swamp. Are you guys out on Tua? Are you guys okay with where he went in the 9th round?
I won't touch him. I don't trust it.
Yeah, I feel like Joey, you just wrote an awesome article on kind of picking 2 quarterbacks, and I think that Tua is the exact type of guy that if you're going to take him here in the draft, I'd be looking at another quarterback. But it's kind of weird, he doesn't really fit the archetype of like a safe, or I guess he would be the upside guy probably, given that we saw like some top 5 weeks from him last week. But I'd want to pair him with somebody who's a tad safer, just in case. So much has been made of the concussions and whatnot, but when you got a quarterback who is just 25 years old and he's talking about possibly retiring on a press conference, I don't know how you don't have sirens going off in your head saying like, avoid this guy long-term dynasty.
So Dave, you mentioned that article. I'm about to practice what you preach. I practice what I preach. So I took Bryce Young, number 2 draft and pick in the draft. I do believe in him. I think he can actually be good this season. I'm going to take someone I absolutely love. And if you've listened to me talk at all this year, I love Geno Smith. That gives me, in a 1 quarterback league, gives me a little bit of time. I can let Young sit on my bench. And if he turns out to be a superstar in the league, great. I've got him for the future. But I'm fully confident in Geno Smith next season and probably the season after that. But yeah, I love doubling the quarterback tandem. I love taking 2. CJ Stroud just went as well. So who did he get paired with? With Jalen Hurts. That's perfect. I love that. Because down the line, let's say that, Jalen Hurts, I feel like he's going to be standout quarterback for the next, 8 to 10 years, probably even more. Stroud could be a trade piece for him if he wants to. If Stroud ends up breaking out.
And just the wild value here. I mean, we're talking about Anthony Richardson going in round 5 versus Young and Stroud going in 9 and 10. The gap isn't that big. I really don't think it is. And it's interesting to see just how much, just because of that ceiling, Richardson is getting out ahead. But I think a lot of people just need to remember just how potent both Stroud and Young can be when given the right weapons. Stroud, yeah, there's some struggles he's going to have there with that core in Houston, but I mean, Young, they're doing some decent work in Carolina to at least get him a little bit in a good space to start, instead of just saying, here's the keys, good luck, and if it dies, it dies. Which, we see with a lot of quarterbacks that are taken, number 1 overall. I mean, they got the offensive line, they've got some weapons, they've signed some guys. I mean, they've done some stuff to at least set them up in a good spot.
Excellent. Hal saying that he thinks that the offense in Minnesota is going to collapse. Saying work and grind, and he went redraft at the start, so need youth. So that's what they're doing now. So they're focusing on that. Awesome. It's Craig saying that I'm going to take Carson Wentz in the last round. There's not a round I would take Carson Wentz in at this point in his career. Andrea, I'm going to throw this one to you, Steven. Is it better to go 0 RB in, I'm assuming she means redraft?
I get anxiety when I do 0 RB because there are runs that occur when I don't expect runs to occur, and then I panic. So my favorite thing is to get your workhorse and then cool off for a few rounds and then fill up the other positions, come back, find a running back 2 with upside later. I kind of did that here and wait till Akers in the 7th. But again, it's, one of those things where I can't fathom waiting that long for a running back without, again, my anxiety levels just going through the roof about, oh crap, I'm going to miss out on this guy, and this guy. And then, there goes the rest of my strategy.
Our friend Heath Cummings has been on the show a few times. He patented the NIPS strategy, no intentional position strategy. And I that's my favorite. It's going to any draft. I'm just going to take best player available for the first few rounds and just see what unfolds for me. I'm never one of those guys like, okay, I'm 0 RB. And that's what I'm sticking with. And that's the only way. Now, when it comes to quarterbacks, I'm a little stubborn, but like I mentioned, a few times, with Mahomes and Hurts, going where they did, I don't think that's terrible value with that 1-2 turn. especially when you look at Lamar Jackson in the 4th. I would be glad to take them at that value. The value has to be right on the quarterback for me.
Yeah. Something I want to talk about too, Steven, you kind of danced around it a little bit, but you talk about getting like scared of runs, especially when you're picking at the ends. If you've got the 101 or the 112, that's when you are really victim to positional runs. I kind of like, when I saw, peek behind the curtain here when we were picking these picks, you guys each picked the end spots. And I said, I'm going to go in the middle because I feel like when you're at the middle, you can control the board a little bit more. I can kind of push people into making runs. When you're sitting at the end, you got 20 something picks in between your next pick, and you're just kind of hoping that these players are going to fall to you. Well, my queue just got emptied as I was talking, so now it's time to completely panic pick here. Oh my goodness!
After you pick Dave, I've got a question for you.
Are you ready for a meatball pick right here?
Yeah,
do it.
Mooney.
Don't do it, Dave.
I went with Mooney. But I can't believe that I think my computer froze on me and it's not allowing me to take Mooney, so I might end up getting auto picked somebody that I don't want.
Do you want Mooney?
This might be Juju.
I put him in my queue too, so we'll see what.
Hey!
Mooney.
The Gabe Davis pick at 10:07. I was like Gabe Davis's biggest fader last year. Wanted nothing to do with him, and didn't think I wanted anything to do with him now. But my goodness, I mean, he's still just 24 years old, and he played on a bum ankle all last year. I thought I was completely out on Gabe Davis, but if he's going to slide to the middle of the 10th round in a single quarterback league, worth the risk at that point.
Yeah, I mean that's almost round and a half, 2 rounds lower than where his average ADP is right now. So I mean that's great value. You cannot pass that up.
All 3 of my last picks, Elijah Moore, Gabe Davis, and Darnell Mooney, were 3 guys that I was aggressively fading last offseason, wanted nothing to do with. But hey, post-hype sleepers, you can make a lot of money drafting those post-hype sleepers.
What a difference a year makes. Dave, we did mention that it was you that had, I don't know if was it your television debut this week?
I'd been on TV before, but this one was especially special because it was back in Chicago. So lots of friends and family. I mean, it was really cool. I got a little teary-eyed actually. All of my nieces and nephews were watching it live on TV, and then as soon as it was over, my 6-year-old niece asked her mom to rewind it and then hug the TV and said, "My baby." So like having friends and family back at home, being able to watch that, my mom was watching it, aunts, uncles, cousins, old coworkers, old classmates. So that was really cool. Just like feeling the love of everybody from Chicago reaching out like, "What the hell are you doing on my TV right now?"
That's great. I watched the show. You sent me a link and it was awesome. Am I on the clock right now? I am. I would like to talk about Cole Kmet. I think what you said on the show about him was really great. If you could say that, why I'm picking.
Yeah, you make your picks. That. I'll talk about Cole Kmet.
Thank you.
Cole Kmet, again.
My arm.
We're talking about like readjusting our priors based on last year. So Elijah Moore, Gabe Davis, Darnell Mooney. I'm joking around about how I was fading those guys aggressively last year. Now drafting them this year. Well, Cole Kmet was a guy that I was all in on last year, and I don't want anything to do with this year. I've got him as my tight end 18, which in a single quarterback or a single tight end league makes him pretty much undraftable. But last year was the perfect case scenario for Cole Kmet. He was one of 4 tight ends to lead the league or lead his team in targets, and he still barely squeaked in as a back end tight end 1. So now with the addition of DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney back and healthy, Chase Claypool acclimated to the offense, and then Robert Tonyan, who's a very good pass-catching tight end. I'm afraid that we're going to see Cole Kmet get relegated to much more of a pass-blocking role, and it's kind of like George Kittle. I'm not comparing Cole Kmet to George Kittle. George Kittle's a much better player, but George Kittle has those games in fantasy where he just completely nukes you, where they say, hey, we're going to struggle with the pass rush. We're going to use George Kittle today as basically an extra lineman, and I'm really worried that we're going to see a lot of those types of outings from Cole Kmet this year.
Yeah, I mean, you hope with the upgrades that were made at tackle that that's not the case. I mean, that's you mentioned Kittle, and especially with McGlinchey not there anymore either. I mean, that's going to be that's a serious concern. It really is. But at the same time, I mean, I'd hope just based on the athleticism that Kmet has showed, and getting that rapport with Fields as the season went on there, that there's at least that understanding that he can get down the middle of the field, he can get open, he can be that escape valve for Fields, and we'll see if they end up going that route. But I mean, it'd be a shame to see him more utilized in that blocking scheme.
Hal saying, how is Minnesota get better losing Cook, and how's that O-line stack up against the division D lines? Do you think that offense will struggle this year?
I mean, maybe running the ball, yes. I'm not sold on Alexander Madison at all. But I mean, they're still going to pass. I mean, that's all there is to it. Oh shoot, I am on the clock here, aren't I? You know what? I'm gonna keep my NFC North homerism going. I high on him last year, and I got to pick again, don't I? Shoot.
I saw the report yesterday about Dobbs being Jordan Love's favorite target there in Green Bay. Now, that's preseason chatter and whatnot, but
right,
it's perks the ears a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm going to take a guy that I'm optimistic on.
Thank you.
But we'll see. Zach Ertz has to stop playing at some point, right?
No. Now, Dave, I'm going to ask.
Shocked if we ever see him again, to be honest. I mean, tearing your ACL at 32 years old, that is not something that a lot of guys can bounce back from. So McBride has been a huge target of mine this year because I think that we just see him step into that tight end one role.
Yeah, so, Dave, I'm going to ask you, and this is not to dog on Steven, but you're on the clock, and you are going to take a Green Bay Packers wide receiver. That is what you have to take to fill out your roster. Is it Romeo Doubs or is it Jaden Reed? Who are you taking?
I prefer Jaden Reed. I'm sorry about that, Steven. I'm not trying to dog on your pick here, but Dobbs, looked like he's going to be a solid role player at best next year. So for me, give me the untapped potential in Jaden Reed, who could, be a difference maker, I think. But, also you got to look at the format that we're drafting right now. 3 wide receivers and 3 flexes. And that's why I was very intentional in my extremely heavy wide receiver approach, because you can start 6 wide receivers every single week. So I drafted 7 wide receivers before I even went for a backup running back, just trying to, play to the league's settings. But I think I did wait a little bit too far on running back, because now here I am with CEH as my RB3, and I'm sweating that out a little bit.
We've got Scampers in the chat, not just with funny jokes, but he's helping people out. He's telling Dave to get off auto, and Dave did do that. So, and Dave, of course, not on his burner. He's thanking Scampers. Hey, everybody, my mom's here. Everybody say hi, Mom. And Dean's here too.
Mom.
Hey, Dean.
Hey, how's it going?
Dean is my mom's new boyfriend. How do we feel about that, everybody? Tell us how you feel about that in the chat. I'd like to hear about it. Hal saying, good luck getting the ball out. And that popped up in my face. Get out. And good luck getting the ball out in time. Can't catch even if he gets thrown to. So Hal is and then Tabitha saying,
man,
you are my favorite. Oh, I'm on the clock. Great. Get the pick.
We are ripping through this draft too.
I know. Some idiot set the clock for 30 seconds instead of
meh.
If you need me to fill the last couple of minutes, I can do a dance. I can sing a song.
Can you go get some hats, Dave, and maybe put some hats on for us? I would really appreciate that. Oh no, Joey, you waited.
He had it.
He
had it. Yeah.
Oh, Dave,
I really wish mine was not in my car right now.
Too funny. Hal's telling Dean, be nice. He's very nice. Very nice gentleman. Scamper saying hi to the moms. So my mom has 2 cats, Scamper, so she probably would like you quite a bit. There's a player that went a few rounds ago, and I meant to mention him in the 12th round, John Metchie, the Houston Texans. Now, what Metchie was dealing with last year off the offseason, goes over what, getting on the field with what he was diagnosed with, but sounds like he's going to be back and ready for the season. Is that a wide receiver that people are kind of sleeping on? He's starting to creep up into the 12th round. So he was going undrafted a little while back. Is that someone you guys are interested in at all?
I mean, the upside is certainly there, but I think what worries me a little bit is that we haven't really heard anything out of camp. We keep hearing us fantasy dorks saying, hey, John Metchie, but I haven't heard anything from any beat writers or anything coming out of Houston. All the talk has been about Nico Collins, and haven't really heard much about Metchie yet, which is a little bit worrisome.
Yeah. CJ Stroud, he's banging the tables for Tank Dell still, so that's always good to hear.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You got a lot of unproven talent on that wide receiver room. So I think my job, what we all do here, is pouring through depth charts and trying to figure out where targets are going to go. And there are 3 teams that I really, really struggle with so far this year. It's the Carolina Panthers. I have no idea who the top dog is going to be there. It's the New York Jets, who, outside of Darren Waller, I'm kind of putting my money on Sterling Shepard, but realistically, I'm looking at a 30-year-old guy coming off of back-to-back season-ending injuries. And then the Houston Texans are another one that, I'd expect Nico Collins to be the guy, but you got Metchie and Tank Dell there, so it's really tough to get a read on either of those receiving rooms.
Do you think there's any line of possibility? Both can answer this. With Dalton Schultz, do you think he could lead that team in targets? Because that's somebody that at his position, I love when a tight end leads their team in targets. It's just fun. And Dalton Schultz, I think, could be one of those tight ends this season.
Let's not forget, Cole Kmet led his team in targets last year and only put up about 8 points per game. So Dalton Schultz could, but if we're looking at a low volume, we got to remember a rookie quarterback, a first-year defensive-minded head coach. So it's one of those, who's going to be the wide receiver 1 in Houston? Does it really even matter? I mean, the wide receiver 1 in Houston could end up being the wide receiver 40 in fantasy scoring. And then same thing, Dalton Schultz, he might lead the team in targets, but he might still be outside of the top 10, top 12 tight ends. So I'm not a huge fan of Dalton Schultz personally. Just think that, pure talent-wise, he's maybe slightly above average, but nothing spectacular. But the one thing he does have going for him is historically, rookie quarterbacks do like to target their tight ends, a big safe target that they can hit in the intermediate parts of the field. So Dalton Schultz could have a year, but to be honest, I mean, that whole Houston offense scares me a little bit with CJ Stroud and a first-year head coach.
I'm taking a look here. I'm trying to see if there's any teams that are still without a quarterback. I think everybody's got at least one now.
Yeah. I think the only one that doesn't have 2. Oh, we got Brocal and
you've got
Swamp.
Awesome. Dame is making a request for you, Dave. Please dance. You don't have to. Scamper's thinking that's cool. My mom
pull up Zamir White in my chat or in my queue. Who drafted Zamir White and when did he go?
Zamir White went.
Dutchie.
Oh, Dutchie. Smart pick there. I was hoping to steal him a little bit later, but
he grabbed him on the left-hand side too. Nailed it. Oh my god, that's so funny.
That was
actually
good.
I don't know if he did.
I've been waiting for that one.
I don't know. Yeah.
Oh man.
Now his 2 quarterbacks are Kirk Cousins and Kenny Pickett. That's interesting. What were you gonna say, Steven?
Well, I was going to say just the other thing about the Metchie situation with the ADP, though. I mean, the other thing that I think people need to remember is it's not just the cancer that we're worried about here. It's also the fact he tore his ACL. So in all reality, we haven't seen him at full strength since November of 2021. I mean, we're going on 2 years now where it's been, okay, that's a long time away from the game, and especially still making that transition to the NFL and never having fully experienced that. I mean, that's a tall ask out of anybody, regardless of how talented they are.
And I mean, we talk about it all the time with Metchie, but everybody seemingly forgets that Jameson Williams has that same uphill battle, and people are still totally confident taking him with a 5th, 6th round startup pick and then wanting nothing to do with Metchie. I mean, Jameson Williams, ton of talent, ton of skill, fast as hell. But yeah, there's certainly risk that Jameson Williams could end up just being a complete landmine right now in some of those early rounds.
Hey, that one catch last year was a great catch.
Let's not forget the run. Let's not forget he had a really every time he touched the ball, he was ripping off 40 yards. But yeah, kind of wild. Now, Kayshon Boutte going in the 16th round. Sounds like he's not even going to make a 53-man roster this year.
I was about to say, I was looking in my queue and I saw Boutte and I wanted to make a Boutte joke. And I was like, you know what? I don't even want to make the joke because I don't want him on my team. Because like you said, I'm not sure he's going to make the roster. But if he does, I mean, the talent's there. It's just the off the field stuff that kind of killed his draft stock.
I mean, I forget who it was, but I was reading a report the other day and it flat out said it was a Patriots beat writer that said he can't play football. I don't know what happened. This guy was a potential top 5 pick when we were talking about him a year and a half ago. And now he goes from potential top 5 pick to can't play football and probably isn't making a week 1 roster. Kind of unbelievable to see a player fall off like that.
I think important. Good, Steven.
From pre-combine, to now, it's just wild to see just how much of a drop he's had. I mean, that's even before last season. We're not even getting into that. But, I mean, he was still even considered like a second, third round pick. And then the combine happened. All of his measurables came back horrific. And then he's getting drafted so late. And now it's like, I mean, does he care? Like, I mean, you almost have to ask that question. Like, does he even want to play if he's putting up that poor numbers?
We got Jesse in here saying, thoughts on Dutchie's team. Let's take a look at it. Got Breece Hall, J.K. Dobbins, Javonte Williams. Do you guys think Javonte Williams is going to be back at the start of the season, or do you think it's going to not be there, or is it going to be a slow start for him?
If you're drafting Javonte Williams, first of all, I love Javonte Williams. I just think that you're realistically playing for 2020. You're not hoping if you get anything in 2023, sweet, cherry on top. But I don't think that you can draft him with any anticipation that he's going to be somebody that you can rely on this season. I mean, it's just ACL, LCL, MCL. I mean, this guy's like it was like skin basically holding on to the bottom of his leg. Like everything was just separated in his knee. So we saw with J.K. Dobbins last year, came back, looked terrible, re-aggravated the injury, missed time, came back and, couldn't even flex his knee at all. If we're looking at that same type of recovery from Javonte Williams, whose injury actually happened later in the season, you just can't expect too much from him now. That being said, when he was a rookie, he was phenomenal. So if he can return to form, you're getting a steal there with that ADP.
Tabitha saying she likes your hat, Dave.
Good.
Tabitha, I will show you a picture when I get off stream of Dave wearing 12 hats that I keep in my phone for when I'm having a sad day, and I pull it up and it makes me smile.
You know what I thought about doing today, Joey? Just because you did the meme with the two pictures side by side, I was gonna wear a blazer and 12 hats on today's show.
So yeah, that was a private meme that I made just for you because I was really happy for Dave. But yeah, I did the Drake meme where he's like doing the he points like he's happy and then like ugh. So I did the yuck at Dave on the TV show, and then I did the thumbs up to him wearing the 12 hats on the FYF show.
Yeah, I thought I could do both at once for today, but
you should have done that.
My prior call kept me a little tight on time. Didn't have time to grab the blazer.
Yeah, I get to see you next week, Dave. I'm excited.
I know, man. Exciting stuff. For anybody that doesn't know, Joey and I are going to see the Avett brothers at Red Rocks next weekend.
Oh, nice.
Following, we got the SFB draft earlier in the day, which Joey, is already in his division, won't be a part of that, but we're going to be drafting live at Improper City. And then after that, going to Red Rocks. It's going to be a heck of a day, Joey. Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah. I did ask my wife, I was like, hey, hun, can I do my Scott Fishbowl draft when we're in Colorado on vacation? And daggers. I was like, okay.
Okay,
thanks,
heard. Yeah, okay.
So
no, she would have let me if I pushed, but I was like, no, let's spend time with family. And so yeah, my mom's gonna be coming with us. It's gonna be a fun vacation. We're going to Rocky Mountain National Park. So again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a 14er season is finally kicking off out here in Colorado. Saturday morning, we bagging my first one of the year. Haven't hit a 14,000 foot peak since October. And then we got some late season snow, but it seems like it's finally clearing up enough that we can get out there this weekend.
That's awesome. I didn't get that high, but I drove up to at Rocky Mountain to the, what's it called?
Pikes Peak?
No, that's down near Colorado Springs. Oh man, it's like the visitor center it's the highest point in Rocky Mountain National Park. And that wasn't even at 14,000. And I was huffing, getting out of the car. I was like, whoa, what elevation from Florida going from 0 to 12,000 is pretty crazy. All right, so I got my last two picks here, and I'm going to make a pick for my good buddy Coop, Tyquan Thornton. Coop keeps talking about him, and I'm going to listen. And then we'll take this one. All right. So we're coming down to the end. Guys, I want you to look at both your teams. I want you to tell me what your favorite pick was and what your least favorite pick from your team was.
Oh, gosh.
I know. Putting you on the spot.
Let's see here. I hate this the more I look at it. Is that bad to say?
No, I don't think it's bad to say. I'm a little worried about your ETN pick that early. I know it's Dynasty, but at the 212, is ETN someone I'm just kind of out on for a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean the thing is, and the guys that went after him, I probably would have been better off looking at this now. I'm probably waiting until the 4, maybe even not. I don't even know. This doesn't like this. I'm just looking at like we talked about, like the gap of 22 picks is like not good. Especially when I'm looking at there goes Chubb, Jacobs, Gibbs, Henry, Walker, Stevenson, Pollard, Dobbins, Harris. Like, I mean, yeah.
I was really hoping Gibbs was going to make it to me. I really was.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of regret the Allen pick at 3-1 if I'm thinking now. I mean, just in the fact that you see some of the late value, Lawrence in the 7th, Fields in the 6th. Man, I probably should have gone positional there. So that's probably my least favorite pick out of this.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Mahomes is my least favorite pick in hindsight. It's kind of crazy to say that I regret taking the Dynasty QB1, but yeah, I mean, if I knew that Justin Fields was going to be hanging out there at 6'11", or Trevor Lawrence in the 7th, or Tua where he went, I mean, even Daniel Jones, I'd have been happy with Daniel Jones as my QB1 in the 12th round and swap out Patrick Mahomes for T. Higgins or Devonta Smith. So in hindsight, I think that's my least favorite pick, but I'm pretty happy with the way that my team shook out. But my favorite pick, I feel like this is just me saying the same thing every time I'm on a mock stream live draft. My favorite pick is Marquise Brown. You guys are continuing to push Marquise Brown way too far down draft boards, and I'm just going to keep drafting him every chance I get.
Yeah.
Not you guys specifically. I mean, like you guys is in the general. Everybody in the industry. Yes.
Thank you. Well, Steven, Dave, thank you for being here today. That's going to be it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow at 3:00. Make sure to follow Dave and Steven on Twitter. They are both great follows. And just a reminder, the Fantasy Alarm Football Draft Guide is now available. Your cheat sheet and one-stop shop for dominating your drafts, offered by proven fantasy winners like Andrew Cooper, Brett Flynn. Absolutely love those guys. You can purchase it for $26.99 or get it free with a monthly or annual all-pro subscription to Fantasy Alarm. So go to fantasyalarm.com to check that out, and then you can start your 7-day free trial once you're there. Thanks again to our guests, Dave and Steven. Thank you so much for being here for me today. Greatly appreciate it. And we'll see everyone next time. Bye, everybody. Oh, bye. Should I say oh, bye? Is that what I should say?
Oh, bye.